It was a figment of my imagination, a radio wave, a signal. I didn't know what it was. It was standing there. To describe this thing to you is, you really think I've gone mad, but you'd have to imagine I'm sitting underneath the wing of this plane and I'm looking out across the burning, really burning sand now with the sun down on it, and it cast a shadow and everything. And standing about 200 feet away from me was this tall figure. It wasn't a man. It was this bizarre collaboration of man and machine. It was bipedal. It looked like a human. It looked like actually one of the camp victims. It was tall, maybe 6 feet, maybe even taller than that, maybe close to 7 feet. Very, very skinny, like a human. It was a human skeleton, you know what I mean? But it had flesh strapped over it, like it was an emaciated corpse, like you see in death camp pictures. This bone rack, but tall. His skin was gray, sickly gray. Shadows where muscles used to be. And instead of a head, it had a television instead of a head. So if you could imagine this as bone rack victim leading up to, instead of his neck came up and it just merged perfectly with this television set. And there's two rabbit ears. I knew it was a television set because of the rabbit ears, you know. At the very top there was these two like antennas. They used to call them rabbit ears, sticking out. And one of them was extended. The other one, you know, at about a 45 degree, and the other one was sort of came out at a similar degree, but it was snapped in the middle and sort of bent down. And he was just standing there. And there was static on the television screen, like the television screen was actually getting, you know, signal. Well, I didn't know what to do. I'm standing there staring at this thing, and I'm guessing that it must be some sort of a interpretation from the Dreadman hardware that's been put into my head. This is some kind of a radio signal or some sort of a signal that's shown up. I mean, there was nothing else for me to do. All I could do was stare. I didn't know what to do. I mean, what do you do when you're presented with something like that? I'd seen a lot of strange things, a lot of different mutants, but there's no way. I've never seen anything mutate into a television set. And it would have showed up. I mean, it didn't show up on the helmet, so I tried not to get too excited. I just sort of, you know, thought about what it could possibly be or what it could mean. It didn't look dangerous. It didn't have any weapons. So I just waited. And once it began to calm down a little bit, it took a step closer. It was connected to me somehow. I didn't know how, but it knew when I was nervous and when I wasn't nervous. It was all on cue. It just started walking towards me. I didn't get up from the chair. I just sat the helmet down beside me and kept staring at it. It came closer and closer until eventually it was underneath the wing as well, and it squatted down on its legs. Not quite letting itself touch the ground, but it just sat there sort of squatted like the way a dog would sit. The static at the television screen was in front of me. And it's funny, you know, with that screen, it kind of drew your attention to it. And I looked down on his arm. He had numbers, like they were tattooed, but the bones in his arms, like the skin was actually separated between his radius and his ulna, both of the bones of his arm. He was humor or whatever it's called. It was, the skin had actually dried there, but I could still see the numbers written on there, and the numbers were, it was T26350-333, and every 3 digits it was separated by a dash. And I thought to myself, you know, what is this? What is this thing? You know. So I opened my mouth and I said, "Who are you?" And the static on the screen disappeared for just a second, and it was black. and then these big letters came across in like all in white, like you couldn't miss them. It was huge. All it was, each letter filled the screen. The letters were I-C-U, and then another U, and a B, and an I. And then the screen went black again. But it didn't go back to static, it just went back to the darkness of the screen. And I repeated the question. I said, "Who are you?" And the letters came up again. I-C-U-U-B-I. So I started sounding it out, and I said, "Ikubi." And it nodded, which was handy, which means that by nodding it would give me a yes or no answer, because there was no mouth, it was just a television set, you know? And I said, "What are you doing here?" And right when he said that, the screen flashed to memories, my memories, things that I knew in my past. I saw myself walking, well, as though it was my own eyes, you know, walking through the wastelands. I saw myself running. And then watching the screen, the images merged, and it began looking, I began to see things I would only imagine. You know when you imagine something really, really clearly and you can see it in your mind like a dream? That's what I was looking at, but I could see it like really, really clearly. And it was amazing to watch. I was staring into the face of this, into Ikubi, and I could see it. And I watched a series of memories go by. I mean, it was an amazing thing to see, being able to see things again. Some of the picture was kind of fuzzy. It wasn't crystal clear. The more distant the memory, the more fuzzy the picture. But I could hear things, and there's this wave of realization going through me, these memories that I had. And I realized that this thing, Ikubi, was me. Well, it was not really me. It was like my memories externalized. It was the way that, with the new Dreadman hardware in my body, that this being was created from my memories. This concentration camp body with a television set for a mind. It's strangely appropriate, really. I mean, when you think about it, for years we were all just manipulated. We were all raised, growing gaunt, forgetting to eat, staring at the cathode rays that came from the all-seeing eye that we all put in our living rooms. Gave us the news, gave us the weather, told us everything, all from this box. I mean, everything we thought, it shaped how we thought, it shaped how we acted. It only made sense that it would shape how we looked, too, and from a certain standpoint. That's what the television set was. Ikubi. I-C-U-U-B-I. It was me. Well, you are what you watch. And so, with the numbers and his concentration camp form and that television set, this was my own representation to myself. Sitting here with the helmet off and getting all introspective and thinking about what I was doing and where I was going, I conjured him. This digital totem to come and speak to me, to come talk to me, to explain to me what I needed to hear, I guess. In any case, he wasn't here to hurt me, which was a kind of a positive thing. I was rather pleased about that. But watching these memories, it was addictive. I did that for hours, just sitting there underneath the wing of a burned out plane, staring at this digital totem, staring at Ikubi, and watching my life on his flash before me on a screen. It's funny how things you know and things you see every day somehow look better when they're on a television screen. I remember people used to get all excited when they found out they were going to be on TV, as though being on the television elevated them in status somehow. You know, look at me, I'm on TV. You know, here I am at the temple. I'm in the temple. So many people can see me because I'm on TV.